Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Hari Prasad, Associate Professor at the Department of Biophysics, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi. Today I am going to talk to you about the module Physicochemical Properties of Water and Hydrophobicity in Living Systems from the paper Fundamentals of Biophysics. The main learning objectives in this particular module are the introduction and structure of water molecule, water and the human body, the physical and chemical properties of water, interactions between water molecules and hydrogen bonds, interconversion between states of water, ice and its properties, the polar nature of water and the concept of universal solvent, amphoteric nature, redox reaction, hydrolysis and hydrate formation, the concept of hydrophobicity and its biophysical effects, and finally, the implications or the effects of hydrophobicity in disease states. अर्ज है, हमारे जैसे और कौन का सवाल आता है जब देखते हैं ग्रह तारे से सजा हुआ आकाश। हमारे जैसे और कौन का सवाल आता है जब देखते हैं ग्रह तारे से सजा हुआ आकाश। सच तो ये है दोस्तों, ना है जिंदगी की पुकार या दिल की धड़कन, खोज है मीठा पानी की तलाश। Thank you. Water, as we know, is called as H2O and was conceived way back in the year 1973. It is a transparent, tasteless and odorless substance. The most common substance on earth is water, making up to 71% of the earth's surface. And because this extensive coverage or the planet being covered by this particular water, it is called as the blue planet. It forms the essential part of many living organisms. It is 98% of the jellyfish. It constitutes 94% of a 3-month human fetus, 72% of the newborn infant, and 60% of the adult. It in fact is the only chemical that naturally exists in all three states, that is the solid, liquid and gas. And most importantly, water is the universal solvent. Water and the human body. Students, even as you see me, you need to understand that you see almost 70% of water. Yes, that's true, because my body is made up of 70% of water. 92% of blood plasma, 80% of muscle tissues, 60% of red blood cells. Water is the best solvent in the cells, also known as universal solvent. It maintains a three-dimensional structure of biopolymers. It's an integral part of membranes and numerous structural components. It maintains the physical properties of the cytoplasm. It acts as a dispersion media near the surfaces of the macromolecules suspended in the cells. Water as a chemical entity. Water is made up of 3 atoms, 1 oxygen and 2 hydrogen atoms. Oxygen has an electronic configuration of 1s2, 2s2 and 2p4. The 2 s orbitals and the 2 p orbitals hybridize to form 4 sp3 hybrid orbitals, giving it a tetrahedral shape. Each hydrogen nucleus is bound to the central oxygen atom by a pair of electrons that are shared between them. This shared electron pair is called as the covalent chemical bond, or also the sigma bond between the oxygen and hydrogen. The water is tiny, electrically neutral and a V-shaped molecule with a molecular diameter of about 2.75 angstrom. Although the water molecule carries no net electric charge, its 8 electrons are not distributed uniformly. There is slightly more negative charge, that is pink, at the oxygen end of the molecule, and the compensative positive charge, which is shown as white, at the hydrogen end. The resulting polarity is largely responsible for water's unique properties and also is called as the electrical dipole. It readily forms inter and intramolecular hydrogen bonds as well as ionic bonds. Structure of water. Water is a bent molecule having a tetrahedral geometry with a bond angle of 104.5 degrees and a OH bond length of 95.7 picometer. Because the two non-bonding pairs remain closer to the oxygen atom, these exert a strong repulsion against the two covalent bonding pairs, effectively pushing the hydrogen atoms closer together. The result is a distorted tetrahedral arrangement in which the HOH angle is 104.5 degrees. As you can see from the figures, it is clearly demonstrated that the non-bonding electron pairs are on one particular side and the bonding electron pairs are onto another side. Properties of water. Water is a clear, colorless, odorless and tasteless liquid. The colors, tastes and odors are more caused by the substances that dissolve in water. The density of water is 1 gram per ml at 4 degrees centigrade. At sea level, pure water boils at 100 degrees centigrade and freezes at 0 degrees centigrade. The boiling temperature of water decreases at higher elevations, that is, at lower atmospheric pressure. It is for this reason that an egg takes longer to boil at higher altitudes. Interaction between water molecules. Oxygen is highly electronegative and gains partial negative charge by withdrawing electron density from two hydrogen atoms to which it is covalently bonded, leaving them with partial positive charges. In ice, every water molecule acts as a donor in the two hydrogen bonds and an acceptor in two hydrogen bonds. Its molecules are more ordered and less densely packed than liquid water. Water has a balanced number of hydrogen bond donors and acceptors. At the same time, molecules in the gases are much more spread out than solids or liquids. They vibrate and move freely at high speeds. There are what you call as hydrogen bonds that exist between water molecules. In the liquid phase, water molecules are associated together by hydrogen bonds. It is formed between a highly electronegative atom of a polar molecule and a hydrogen. One hydrogen bond is weak, but many hydrogen bonds together are very strong. The negative oxygen end of one water molecule is attracted to the positive hydrogen end of another water molecule, forming a hydrogen bond. As we can see from the figure, water exists in three fundamental states as a solid, liquid and gas. As a solid, we perceive them as ice. As liquid, we know them as water. And in the gaseous phase, we come across as water vapor. These three states are interchangeable depending upon the absorption of heat or dissipation of heat. Liquid freezes to a solid. The solid sometimes can directly be converted to a gas through a process called as sublimation, and gas condenses to form liquid. At the same time, with heat, ice melts to give water, water evaporates to give gas, and gas condenses to give solid. Physical properties of water. Hydrogen bonds make water cohesive, that is, its molecules stick to each other. Plants transport water from roots to the leaves against gravity using this particular phenomena. Water has high surface tension because hydrogen bonds among the surface water molecules resist stretching or breaking the surface, forming an invisible film. Water makes hydrogen bonds with other surfaces such as glass, soil, plant tissues, making it sticky, and this particular property is known as adhesion. Water molecules will tow with each other along a thin glass tube, giving it a capillary action. High number of bonded interactions exist between molecules, giving it continuity called as transpiration, by which plants and trees take up water from the roots to small pores on the underside of the leaves, and this is released as vapor. Ice has a regular arrangement of atoms, making it less dense, thereby making icebergs float. Now students, let's now try to understand the high specific heat of water. Specific heat is the amount of heat that is required or lost to raise or lower the temperature of 1 gram of substance by 1 degree Celsius. Water has high specific heat because a lot of heat energy is required to break hydrogen bonds. After breaking hydrogen bonds, not much is left over to raise the temperature of the water. Water can absorb a lot of heat with little change in temperature. Because of this property, water acts as a thermal buffer and has high thermal capacity. The ocean temperatures vary by no more than 2 degrees centigrade. This creates a hospitable environment for life. Water stabilizes air temperatures by absorbing heat from warmer air and releasing heat to cooler air. Let's now try to understand about heat of vaporization. The heat of vaporization is the amount of heat required for 1 gram of a substance to be converted from a liquid to gas. Hydrogen bonds make it difficult for water molecules to escape the liquid state and are responsible for water's high heat of vaporization. During physical activity, moisture evaporates from our skin and cools us. Since the evaporation of water requires a considerable amount of energy, this is the heat energy that is taken up from the body and therefore is very effective in cooling us. Water also helps in the moderation of the global climate by absorbing solar radiation and dissipating the heat by evaporation of surface water. Density of ice is less than water. Let's try to understand this particular concept. Most liquids become more dense as you cool them, with the exception of water. Density of water is 1 gram per ml at 4 degrees centigrade, whereas the density of ice is 0.92 gram per ml at 0 degrees centigrade. Therefore, ice floats on water. To be more precise, when water freezes to ice, the hydrogen bonds in water create open hexagonal lattice and leaves empty space between the molecules. Therefore, the density decreases. Let's now talk about the structure of ice. At atmospheric pressure, ice crystallizes in the hexagonal form, but at very low temperatures, it condenses to a cubical form. Each oxygen atom is surrounded tetrahedrally by 4 other oxygen atoms at a distance of 276 picometer. The hydrogen bonding gives ice a rather open type structure with wide holes. These holes can hold some other molecules of appropriate size interstitially. The density of ice is therefore less than that of water, and rightly so, an ice cube floats on water. In the winter season, ice formed on the surface of a lake provides thermal insulation which ensures the survival of the aquatic life. This fact is of great ecological significance. Usefulness of water density prevents water from freezing bottom up in oceans and lakes. Ice forms on the surface first. The freezing of water releases heat to the water below, creating insulation. It therefore makes transition between seasons less abrupt. Water has a polar nature. In each water molecule, the oxygen atom attracts more than its fair share of electrons. Therefore, oxygen acquires a partial negative charge, and hydrogen, on the other hand, acquires partial positive charge. This causes the water to be polar by nature. Water with the equal number of electrons and protons is neutral. Due to its polarity, water can form hydrogen bonding, which is a very important parameter for all the physical and chemical properties. Let us now try to understand the hydrogen bonds that exist between water molecules. Water molecules have a tendency to form hydrogen bonds with the other water molecules. The partial negative charge on oxygen end of one water molecule is attracted to the partial positive charge of hydrogen end of another water molecule to form a hydrogen bond. These are continuously forming, breaking, and flow past one another as shown in this particular diagram. Hydrogen bonds play a crucial role in imparting the fluidic nature as well as impart other properties such as adhesion, cohesion, taking up heat, regulating temperature, evaporative cooling, surface tension, and most importantly, for it to be a solvent. Water molecules are also attracted to other polar molecules and to other ions. A charged or a polar substance is called as hydrophilic, or what you call as water loving. Non-polar molecules are called as hydrophobic or water fearing. Water as a universal solvent. The polar nature of water helps to dissolve most of the substances. Proper concentration of ions such as calcium, potassium, sodium, chloride, and molecules such as glucose is essential for the functioning of cells and therefore to life. Some substances do not dissolve well in water. For example, the cell membrane that are composed of lipids create a water resistant barrier around cell and other organelles, and this is a very important phenomena called as compartmentation. Water has certain chemical properties. They are the amphoteric nature, the redox reactions, the hydrolysis reaction, and hydrate formation. Amphoteric nature of water molecule. This has an ability to act as an acid as well as a base. For example, it acts as an acid with NH3 and as a base with hydrogen sulfide. The autoprotolysis or the self-ionization of water also takes place as shown in the equation below, where it acts as an acid as well as a base to give rise to a conjugate acid and a conjugate base. Water in redox reactions. Water can easily be reduced to dihydrogen by highly electropositive metals. For example, when water reacts with sodium, it gives rise to sodium hydroxide and hydrogen. Thus, is a great source of dihydrogen. Water is oxidized to oxygen during photosynthesis, a very important phenomena that takes place in the leaves of plants and trees, wherein carbon dioxide combines with water to give rise to glucose, water, and oxygen. With fluorine too, it is oxidized to oxygen as shown in this equation. What is hydrolysis? Hydrolysis is the process of breakdown of water into oxygen and hydrogen. Reaction of a cation and anion or both with water molecule, due to which the pH is altered and the cleavage of the hydrogen oxygen bond in hydrolysis takes place. This is basically done using energy from an electricity source. Oxygen with its partial negative nature collects at the anode, and hydrogen with its partial positive charge collects at the cathode. Hydrate formation. Due to high dielectric constant, it has a very strong hydrating tendency. It dissolves many ionic compounds. Certain covalent and some ionic compounds are hydrolyzed in water. Few of the examples are given here below. Hydrate formation. Hydrates are substances that contain water. Certain salts contain water molecules combined in a definite ratio as an integral part of the crystal. With positive ions, there may only be loose attractions between slightly negative oxygen atoms in the water molecules and the positive ions, or there may be formal native covalent or a coordinate covalent bond. With negative ions, hydrogen bonds are formed between lone pairs of electrons on the negative ions and the slightly positive hydrogens in the water molecules. Some of the examples are given below. As you can see, anhydrous cobalt chloride and a cobalt chloride hexahydrate have completely different physical properties. Some of the important parameters that dictate hydration is the existence of a particular physical state of the substance, high pressure and low temperature. Structure making and structure breaking ions. The ability of ions and other molecules to dissolve in water is due to its polarity. Pure water ionizes to a very small degree through to a measurable extent. Structure making ions like calcium, lithium, sodium form stronger bonds with water. Thereby, they decrease the free movement of water molecules and thereby increase the hexamer structure formation. Structure breaking ions like magnesium, potassium form weaker bonds with water. Therefore, it increases the free movement of water molecules and decreases the hexamer structure, or in other words, increases the unstructured water clusters. Presence of a salt disturbs the water structure. The water molecules reorient around the ions. This makes the ions to move with their primary hydration shells. Let's now understand the concept of hydrophobicity. In chemistry, hydrophobicity is the physical property of a molecule, or also known as the hydrophobe, that is seemingly repelled from a mass of water. Hydrophobicity is a measure of the delta G, the transfer of, say, for example, an amino acid from water to an organic solvent. Hydrophobic hydration plays a key role in the biological process such as protein folding, membrane formation, ligand binding, and even protein stability. Water is an important factor in determining the energy balance, and the hydrophobic effect plays a very crucial role in dictating the native conformation of a protein. The hydrophobic effect of water. It refers to the association or folding of non-polar molecules in aqueous solution. When water surrounds a hydrophobic molecule, a solvation layer of water molecules is created. This helps to stabilize the conformation. The increased order of water molecules around non-polar substances tends to decrease or lower the entropy. When non-polar groups cluster together, solvation layer forms with simultaneous release of water into the bulk solution, which increases the entropy or decreases the free energy, thereby making it more stable. Biophysical effects and the uses of hydrophobicity. First of all, it's involved in protein folding. Structures of proteins have a hydrophobic core in which residues are buried from the water molecules, and this stabilizes the folded state. Hydrophobicity also plays a very crucial role in protein-protein interactions, formation of lipid micelles, and also the binding of steroid hormones to their receptors. The membrane-bound organelles concentrate and isolate enzymes and reactions in smaller volume, thereby increasing the rate and efficiency of chemical reactions. Patterned superhydrophobic surfaces also have promise for a lab on a chip microfluidic devices and can drastically improve surface-based bioanalysis. We'll get into the concept of protein folding and stabilization. The hydrophobic amino acid residues are buried in the core away from the water, whereas polar residues form hydrogen bonds with the water molecules at the periphery. The juggling and sorting happens till the hydrophobic side chains are packed together in the most stable way. The protein conformations are now stabilized by these hydrophobic interactions in addition to other interactions such as ionic interactions and hydrogen bonded interactions. The concept of hydrophobicity and compartmentalization in the cell. Cell organelles are surrounded by flat sheets of bilayer phospholipid membrane that form a barrier, and this is called as compartmentalization. The hydrophilic heads face and interact with water molecules, whereas the hydrophobic tails form the interior of the bilayer as shown in the figure. This helps different organelles to maintain concentrations of substances such as the enzymes. It helps them to maintain the pH and regulate specialized functions very efficiently. Hydrophobicity as a concept of drug delivery. When drugs are to be delivered, they have to reach the optimum concentration at the site of the drug target. How do they reach this particular concentration at the right site? It's by using what you call as liposome. Liposome is a spherical molecule that is surrounded by hydrophobic lipid layer and can contain molecules at the center, enabling them to deliver the drug. Liposome carries such drugs into the body and fuses with other membranes to release the drug at the right site. In the figure shown here, you see a cross section of a liposome with the lipid bilayer and the drug, which is lipid soluble in the bilayer, and in the aqueous medium at the core of the liposome you have the drug in a crystal form. We have used this particular concept at endothelin receptor binding studies using liposomes in this particular paper. Hydrophobicity and the disease called as sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia is an autosomal recessive disease that causes abnormality in the oxygen carrying protein, that is the hemoglobin. It is caused by a point mutation on the beta globin chain. At this particular position, the hydrophilic glutamic acid gets replaced by a hydrophobic valine. The sixth position is located at the surface of the beta chain where it normally would be exposed to water. A switch from the hydrophilic to the hydrophobic residue on the surface reduces the solubility of the molecule to the extent that it promotes the formation of large insoluble aggregates. These aggregates then clog the blood vessels, resulting in the various signs and symptoms related to this particular disease. Hydrophobicity and disease with respect to Alzheimer's disease. First of all, let us try to understand the etiopathogenesis of Alzheimer's disease. There is what you call as a amyloid precursor protein, which is a membrane protein. This particular protein is cleaved at the N-terminal by the beta secretase and at the C-terminal by the gamma secretase. This helps to release a 42 residue peptide, which is called as the amyloid beta fragment. The amyloid beta fragment, though generally known to sometimes have a random conformation, takes up an anti-parallel beta sheet and tends to oligomerize with the other amyloid beta molecules. This subsequently, like small ion filings that come together, leads to the process of aggregation. This particular aggregation in the hippocampal region is the basic cause of forgetfulness or dementia in Alzheimer's disease. This particular aggregation has been sought by many to be prevented, and a lot of research has gone to understanding the amyloid beta aggregation as well as ways to inhibit this particular aggregation. We too have extensively studied this particular molecules where the hydrophobic nature of some of the residues on the peptide result in the concept of aggregation. We have used proline and arginine to good effect to prevent this particular aggregation and has been shown in the upper panel of the microscopic figures that have been shown below. The right side lower panel shows the amyloid beta fibrils, and the left panel is the same amyloid fibrils at an extremely high pH, which tends to solubilize the aggregation. We have also used a particular peptide with the sequence of leucine, valine, phenylalanine and alanine to prevent this particular aggregation. As you can see, the upper panel is the microscopic picture showing the application of the LVFFA that prevents aggregation, and the lower panel is the control where you have the fibril formation by the amyloid beta. So students, let us now summarize what we have learnt in this particular module. Water is the most abundantly available substance of great biological and chemical significance. The ease with which water is transformed from liquid to solid and to a gaseous state allows it to play a very vital role in the biosphere. The physical properties of water include cohesion, adhesion, high specific heat, high heat of vaporization, low density of ice. The highly polar nature of water leads to hydrogen bonding, which is the maximum in ice and least in water vapor. The polar nature of water also makes it very good solvent. It acts as an amphoteric substance and forms hydrates of different types. Hydrophobicity is the physical property of a molecule that repels water. Hydrophobicity has a role to play in protein folding and stability. It also has a role in compartmentation, drug delivery, and causation of sickle cell anemia and Alzheimer's disease. Thank you.